With the freshmen enrolling and the junior college players now joining the roster, it's time for another roster update here on the Country Roads webcast. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast here for another WVU football roster update as we are very close now to finalizing the roster for the upcoming 2025 season and the start of the Rich Rod 2.0 era. Got 8 new additions to talk about here, most of them coming in as true freshmen here from that last recruiting class that West Virginia just brought in, that 2025 recruiting class, as most of those are now on campus. We know in the last update we did, we talked about the transfers. Got a couple of JUCO signings as well that have now joined the official roster. Still have a handful of guys we're waiting to see on. Some of them are already there, but haven't been listed on the university's official roster yet, so won't update them and add them to our CRW roster tracker until then. But we've got plenty to look at and talk about here throughout this update. We'll try and not keep the video too long for you guys, but before we dive into it, just want to get you guys with a quick reminder, if you would, just take a second, move your thumb, move your mouse, whichever you got there, over and hit that thumbs up button. It helps us out with that crazy YouTube algorithm, helps us find more Mountaineer fans like yourself. And if you are a Mountaineer fan and you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, get these videos directly into your feed. I think these roster updates are particularly handy in today's day and age with all the transfer portal movement, the madness that is college football. One of the biggest complaints you hear from fans is, man, I never know who's going to be on the roster once the season rolls around. Well, if you follow along here on the CRW, I'll keep you up to date every step of the way throughout the offseason, as I have done yet again throughout this offseason. As we get close to now having the roster finalized here, won't have too many roster updates coming once we get closer to the month of August there. Then we'll start rolling into depth chart updates for channel members, which shout out to our channel members who are getting behind the scenes access here, watching me as I record this video. That's one of the perks there. If you want, of course, become a channel member, you can hit the join button down below. Help us keep this mic recording, that camera rolling, and you get a ton of WVU football bonus content, including film reviews, depth chart updates, fun stuff like that once the season rolls around. So keep that in consideration as well. And you can always interact in the comments section. Always appreciate that. Let me know your thoughts on how this roster is shaping up heading into the 2025 season. With no further ado, let's dive in. Let's talk about the new additions we've got to add in here. Okay, so we're just going to go position by position here. We do have a quarterback joining the roster. Of course, the only other freshman quarterback that's coming in besides Scotty Fox is Max Anderson, the in-state recruit there, 6 foot 208 from Spring Mills. We can now add him to our CRW roster tracker. Let's pull that up and do just that and talk about the quarterback position. All right, so here we see Max Anderson's name added to the list, and we can definitely talk about the quarterback position because this is now one position that is solidified for the upcoming season. Everyone that's going to be here is in here, and this is what it's going to be for the upcoming year. So as you see them in all these positions here, this is not a depth chart. They're just listed in order of class, going from, the most experienced down to the youngest. As you see here, redshirt senior Jalen Anderson at the top, and then your true freshman Scotty Fox, Max Anderson at the bottom. But the QB room for the upcoming season here on our June 29th roster update, we can confirm quarterback Jalen Henderson, the redshirt senior, he'll be wearing 13. Redshirt junior Nico Markiel, number 8. Those are the two that are battling for that starting job. Don't count out Max Brown just yet, but I still think it's going to probably be Nico or Jalen. But you also have Max Brown, redshirt junior. He'll be wearing number 6. The transfer in from Charlotte. Jalen Henderson, of course, was a transfer from Texas A&M. Scott Keene returns to the roster. Former walk-on there, remains on the roster. Redshirt junior wearing number 12. We have Khalil Wilkins, who came in last year redshirted. He's still on the roster, number 14 there, now in his redshirt freshman season. And then, of course, Scotty Fox, who really turned heads in the spring, wearing number 15, the true freshman quarterback, has a chance to be the quarterback of the future for West Virginia. I truly believe that. There's been a lot of rave reviews about him. And then now another freshman, Max Anderson, wearing number 19, joins the fold. One of 8 players we're adding here in this roster update. Let's talk about the next one. Sticking with the skill positions here, we're also adding a wide receiver, the only true freshman wide receiver on the roster, maybe the only freshman receiver in general. I'll confirm that when we pull up the CRW roster tracker momentarily. But Armani Weaver, another true freshman, has enrolled, 5'9", 161, from Westside High School there in Spartanburg, South Carolina. If you remember, both of these coming via the Rod West connection. Former App State commits, him and his teammate Camarius Bomar, who we'll talk about momentarily, one playing receiver, one playing corner. Both probably could have played either position. Really fast, quick twitch guys, excited about the future for those guys. We had Armani Weaver. Let's pull up the wide receiver position now. All right, so Armani Weaver is the only freshman that will be on the roster at the receiver position right now. There's actually someone else, and we will have an update on that momentarily. Here at the end, I want to talk about the players that are not yet listed on the university's official roster, and a couple of those we do know are already on campus. One of those is another freshman, but for now, Armani Weaver is the only one on here at the wide receiver spot. But this is pretty much solidified as well now. We do have a couple more names we're going to be adding. But like I said, they are on campus, so just as soon as they add them to the university's official roster, I'll add them here on our CRW roster tracker. But at the wide receiver spot, we'll have Jaden Bray as a redshirt senior wearing number 5. Preston Fox did return for his redshirt senior season. He'll be wearing 29. Then you brought in a couple of other redshirt seniors here in Logan Ramper, who'll be wearing number 18. Justin Smith-Brown wearing number 11. Gerard Bowie from Jack State wearing number 7. Then just a straight-up senior in Man Singleton, Oren Singleton wearing number 3. Jarrell Williams, a redshirt junior, wearing number 10. And then you got Rodney Gallagher, fellow junior, still wearing 24. Jordan McCants, a transfer in from Jack State, redshirt junior, wearing 88. Cam Vaughn, he'll be your wide receiver number 1 this year. That's my bookmark. That's my bold prediction. I think he's that good. Cam Vaughn, redshirt sophomore, wearing number 4. You also brought in Cyrus Straw, redshirt sophomore, wearing 86. Christian Hamilton, another redshirt sophomore, wearing 17. And then, of course, Armani Weaver, the true freshman, will be wearing number 25. Next person that we're adding to the roster is an offensive lineman that's another true freshman, and that's Philip Bowser, a part of this 2025 WVU recruiting class. We're going to talk about 2 offensive linemen here. Bowser was one that was, of course, recruited and we talked about on signing day. The other addition is one of those that would have been, previously we would have called them preferred walk-ons. I don't know if they're still called that after the House settlement in the new system, but we'll talk about another freshman offensive lineman as well. But we have Philip Bowser joining the roster. If you guys remember, recruited him out of Ohio there, 6'4", 273. And then the other offensive line addition coming from in-state is Trevor Bigelow, 6'4", 267 from Fairmont there. And like I said, this will be more of like the PWO type that we're talking about. And we have 3 or 4 linemen on the roster that kind of fit that category. Talk about that here as we pull up the offensive line spot here on the West Virginia roster. Okay, so we pull up our CRW roster tracker here, and we can now see Philip Bowser and Trevor Bigelow's names added to the list there. If I could spell Bowser's name correctly, let me change that up really quickly. But as we go through our offensive linemen here, I do want to highlight that Trevor Bigelow, Raymond Kovaleski, Griffin Fogel, and Andreas Hunter are kind of what we would previously call, preferred walk-ons or walk-ons back in the old system. I don't know, how that's classified, if that's still classified the same now under the House settlement with the raise and, the amount of scholarships you're able to give out. We'll see how that factors out, but we know that they are on the roster, and this is the offensive line roster for the upcoming season for West Virginia. We have multiple seniors here at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4 redshirt seniors here. They are Tyke Crawford wearing 74, Kimo Makanaole wearing 56, Walter Youngbear wearing 54, and Carson Lee wearing 55. All 4 of which are going to compete for potential starting jobs on that offensive line. We're going to have to see how that shakes out. A lot of fun competition with a lot of these guys West Virginia's brought in. Redshirt juniors on the roster. There are also 4 of those. We have Xavier Bosley, who'll be wearing 78, Landon Livingston, who'll be wearing 67, Donovan Haslam, who we just brought in and talked about on the last update. He'll be wearing 57. Same goes for Malik Agbo. Just talked about him then as well, and he'll be wearing 65. Redshirt sophomores on the roster, 4 of those. The redshirt sophomores, Nick Cray, number 52, Wyatt Minor, number 68, Cooper Young, number 64, and Aiden Bussell, number 66. Out of those, Nick Cray and Aiden Bussell, I think, have a chance to compete on that offensive line as well. A lot of those names that we just went through are going to be names that you see on the 2 deep this upcoming season, because then when we get below this, these are more your developmental younger guys. We talked about some of the walk-ons there within this freshman class with Trevor Bigelow, with Andreas Hunter, Griffin Fogel, and Roman Kovaleski. But the scholarship guys that you have are Robbie Martin, who you just brought in as a transfer from NC State, former in-state guy there. He's a redshirt freshman wearing 63. Then you got Josh Isosa, another transfer, this one from Oklahoma, wearing 59 as a redshirt freshman. And then, of course, the 2 that we just highlighted, Philip Bowser and Trevor Bigelow, both true freshmen. And as we get closer to fall camp, we can break this down position by position, let you know who's playing what from left tackle over to right tackle. Once we get into fall camp, that'll be something we do on a future roster update. But more additions to talk about here. Let's get to them. On the defensive side here, Cam Torber, another true freshman joining the mix. And how about this size for a true freshman? This is one of the more underrated recruits in the 2025 class that West Virginia brought in because he came in late and kind of flew under the radar. But 6'3", 242. How about that size? And he's from Hoover High School. If you grew up around the time I did, there was a show on, was that VH1 or MTV, about that program there called, I think it was called Two A Days. And so he was a part of that Hoover program. So obviously very storied. And he joins the roster at the linebacker spot as a true freshman. So let's pull up the linebackers as the rest of these additions here that we're going to talk about in this June 29th roster update are on the defensive side. Okay, so the linebacker position, you see we're highlighting Cam Torber, who's now joined that group as a freshman. The only other true freshman on the roster was Mike Hasty, who's already on the roster there for the spring. Cam Torber now joins here for the fall. And the linebacker position pretty much solidified for the upcoming season, I do believe. We'll have 4 redshirt seniors on the roster playing linebacker. We'll have to see how they split it up between, the Mike spot and the Will spot. But Chase Wilson, number 30, is one of those redshirt seniors. Then you have Reed Carrico, number 35, who returns. Caden Beiser, number 36, who returns. And you also brought in John Lewis from Mississippi State, who we talked about in the last update. He'll be wearing number 12. Then you have a couple of juniors. Ben Bogle, who you brought in as a redshirt junior, wearing number 32. Ben Cutter returns as a junior, still wearing 15. Then you have your transfer from North Carolina, Ashton Woods, the redshirt freshman, wearing 33. And then, of course, your 2 true freshmen, Mike Hasty, number 22, and then Cam Torber, number 46. That's the linebacker spot. How about the bandit position, where we're going to talk about the 2 junior college additions that we're talking about here in this roster update? And we knew that West Virginia needed to add at the bandit position with only 2 on the roster. And I told you guys a couple of junior college players were coming that were going to be bandits. And here they are. One of them is Marshawn Oxley, 6'2", 214. He'll be a redshirt junior. He's coming from Hutchinson Community College there in California. So you add Marshawn Oxley, and then you also add Keenan Eck, 6'4", 205, fellow redshirt junior, also from California, but he's from Citrus Community College there. Both of these guys, super athletic, can really get to the passer. And I think when you look at West Virginia's bandit position for the upcoming season, you're excited about it. You're excited about the edge pressure in general on this defense, which is something Zach Alley's highlighted being an important factor in his defense. So let's pull up the bandit position and talk about some of the names you'll see there now with these 2 new additions. Okay, so the bandit position for West Virginia this upcoming season, got some really good pass rushers here. Braden Siders was here for the spring. We know about him. I told you guys these 2 JUCO additions would be coming. Marshawn Oxley and Keenan Eck, both now added to the roster. Both those guys really super athletic and probably the most underrated on the bunch that people don't know a ton about yet. Curtis Jones Jr., part of last year's recruiting class, and he's really stood out. He's got a chance to maybe even start at that bandit spot for the upcoming season. If I'm being honest with you, it's crazy, the youngest player in the room, and that really bodes well for the future. But your bandit position for the upcoming season, the guys you'll see here now that we can add Oxley and Eck in, and we now have 4 deep there instead of just 2. Your redshirt seniors, Braden Siders, number 10. He'll be competing for that starting job with Jones. Then, of course, the 2 JUCO additions we just talked about, number 45, Marshawn Oxley, and number 58, Keenan Eck. And then number 41, Curtis Jones Jr. is your sophomore there at the bandit spot. So your bandits and linebackers there we just highlighted. And that bandit spot's important because Zach Alley said the edges of the defense is what really matters. And that's why you've seen West Virginia go out, get so many pass rushers, get so many edge rushers that also are there, on the D line with those guys that we've talked about in the transfer updates. And then, of course, your other edge positions you got to worry about are your field corner and your boundary corner. And we know West Virginia added a ton in the secondary as well. So I really like the pieces added to help Zach Alley's defense here, and those bandits are going to factor right in with that. But let's wrap up by talking about that secondary one final time here, because now the final addition we got to talk about is a true freshman corner. And that, of course, is none other than Kamarius Bomar. Teased him up a little bit earlier when we were talking about Armani Weaver. High school teammates, previously committed to App State, flipped to West Virginia. Like I said, either one of these guys could have played receiver or corner. Bomar ends up playing corner, 5'10", 177, Westside High School there in South Carolina. Another super speedy guy. I think Bomar and Weaver are both going to be contributors down the line. But we talked about the edges of Zach Alley's defense. We talked about the bandit spot. We talked about, the pass rushers on the D-line, which we've been, well documented, but also it's those cornerbacks. So let's pull up the cornerback position now with the addition of Kamarius Bomar, talk about it a little bit. And then I want to highlight some of the guys that are not yet on the official roster that will be added, and then a couple of other question marks. All right, so taking a look at the cornerback spot, the only freshman corner, Currently listed on the roster, of course, is the one we're highlighting here, Kamarius Bomar, now with his addition in this June 29th roster update. And man, the cornerback room completely remade. Barely any returners here that you'll recognize that got significant snaps. I think there's only a couple in general, but as far as the cornerback room is concerned, you went out and you got guys that can help you right away. 3 redshirt seniors. They are number 2, Devontae Golden Nelson, number 13, Derek Carter, number 6, Jordan Scruggs. Then 3 seniors, Michael Coates, number 3, lockdown corner. That's going to be cornerback number 1, my other bullet prediction here on the defensive side. Jason Chambers, number 23, coming over from App State. Ty Crutcher, number 16, who you brought in from the JUCO ranks. Jaden Bell is a redshirt sophomore, number 37, and Keyshawn Robinson is a sophomore, number 20. Those are the 2 returners that were on the roster last season. Then you added Nick Taylor, number 19, a sophomore from App State, and then, of course, Kamarius Bomar, who we're talking about here as well. There's your cornerbacks for the upcoming season, and that's going to help those strong edges that Zach Alley needs to go along with the talented pass rushers that we have there. So while, I've highlighted all the positions that we've added these 8 players to, I'll slowly scroll through the roster here while I tease up what I'm going to pull up next, because there's also a couple of guys that are on campus already, and we know that from a screenshot that leaked that we talked about in a live stream, talking about 40 times, which I'll pull up momentarily. So a couple more receivers will be added to the receiver position for sure, so I know we have that roster update coming. And then I want to pull up the 2025 class to show you the 2 or 3 names that have not yet been added to the official roster that hopefully will be in the near future, that also could be a part of the future roster updates, because these names that we're about to talk about will be the only names remaining, and then the roster will be completely solidified for the upcoming 2025 season and the start of the Rich Rod 2.0 era. These are the names you'll see along with their class year and their jersey number as we scroll through the roster there. But let's talk about the names that are in question. Okay, so here is the 2025 signing list. I've taken off the names that have been added to the roster as we've added them. So the only names left that haven't yet been added to the official roster: defensive back Julian Horton, defensive lineman Taylor Brown, wide receiver Tyshawn Dews, defensive back Dwayne Galloway, and wide receiver Jeff Weimer. Now, 2 of these, Tyshawn Dews at the wide receiver position and Jeff Weimer at the wide receiver position, I can confirm are indeed on campus. And here's how. Let me pull this up, because we've talked about this in the past, and some of you have seen this floating around. Jaheim White posted these 40 times on his Instagram, which were super impressive. Not going to dive into all of that, but you can see on the list here at the wide receiver spot, Tyshawn Dews is on there, and Jeff Weimer is on there. So not sure why they've not yet been added to the university's official roster, but once they are, I'll update it here in a future roster up here on the CRW and add them to our roster tracker. So let's pull back up that list, because technically we know that Jeff Weimer and Tyshawn Dews are on campus, so we know they will be added in the near future. So really the only ones in question are these true freshmen: defensive back Julian Horton, defensive lineman Taylor Brown, and defensive back Dwayne Galloway. We know that West Virginia did have some people that didn't end up enrolling due to kind of the new roster limitations. Hopefully that's not the case for these guys, particularly Taylor Brown and Galloway. They were 2 of the higher rated players in the class. Hopefully it's just a case of they haven't yet made it to campus, and once they do, they'll be added to that official roster. So we'll keep an eye on that. Definitely got to get Galloway in. Like I said, he was probably the highest rated recruit in that previous class, and Brown wasn't far behind. So hopefully we'll be adding those guys in the near future. We know Dews and Weimer are there, so we definitely will be adding them. But keep an eye out for a future roster update as we move into July and get close to the start of fall camp and solidify this 2025 WVU roster. So there you have it, Mountaineer Nation. Apologies for the link there, but I had a lot to get to there as far as the new 8 names, and wanted to highlight the positions as we talked about each of those names, and then update you on who is still yet to be added that hasn't been added, so you can know kind of where the roster stands. So all but solidified. We're just waiting on 3 freshmen basically, and then the roster will be finalized for the upcoming 2025 season. So, the fact that those guys are true freshmen probably means that most of the contributors, the faces that you'll see a lot getting a lot of the reps on Saturdays this upcoming season, are kind of already in the fold, which means you can let me know how you're feeling about the roster in its current state in the comment section below. And I always appreciate those interactions. They help us continue to grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Another way you can do that is just by hitting that thumbs up button before you head out. Really appreciate appreciate that as well. That helps with that crazy YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date on this ever-changing WVU football roster in today's day and age, right? Getting close to finally knowing what it's going to look like for the upcoming season, though. And if you always want to know what that roster is going to look like, what that depth chart is going to look like, you can find out that information from us here on the Country Roads webcast. And we'd really appreciate that. Thank you guys for checking this one out. Have another roster update out to you in due time, and we'll keep you up to date on these guys that you'll see on Saturdays for the Mountaineers coming up for the Rich Rod 2.0 era. Can't wait for the start of it as we approach it and get close to it, guys. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.